beep, 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 boring. What episode are we on, Dylan?
Episode 13, Datalore.
Yeah, so basically the plot of this episode is the Enterprise is going to the place where they found Data, and they don't know what happened there, even though that's where they found him. And then they get to the planet, and they find a hidden lab that's looks like rock on the outside. And in the lab, they find another Data. So they bring the other Data back to the ship. They turn him on, and the android says that he's Lore and that he was made after Data. And Data starts showing Lore around the ship. They let Lore onto the bridge. They let him access all their files and everything. And Lore just acts really weird. Eventually, Lore reveals himself as super evil. He switches himself with Data, tries to lure the ship towards something called the crystalline entity, which eats life, and then he gets thrown out into space, and everything's fine.
Teleported out into space.
Yeah.
Get it right,
They threw him like a football. But,
Tyler. Don't lie to the audience. It's not nice when you lie to the audience.
So that's all. That's the main stuff that happens. I'm sure we'll go into finer detail.
The basic plot summary.
Yeah.
The only other thing I would add is that Laura reveals later that he lied about Data being created first,
Yeah.
and in actuality he was created first, but
He
supposedly
was a failure.
supposedly the colonists thought Laura was too human or something, and it was creepy, so they petitioned.
But that's according to Lore as well, so we don't
Yeah,
know.
again, that's why I say supposedly. And so, supposedly, the colonists asked Singh to create a less human android.
So, I really enjoyed this episode for a while. For a good while. And then it just started to get really first season-y towards the end.
It is kind of, it's a little odd, but let's start with, I guess, the good. I don't know, do you have any good things you want to say about this?
It's the first chance for Data to really shine as a character instead of just being comic relief all the time. Because in all the other episodes, we usually, even when they're terrible, we list him as a good because he makes some hilarious statement or something. But in this, I think it's the first time he's really been a character and we explore him a bit.
Yeah.
And that was nice.
Although, speaking on the comic relief thing, I put it under good, but it could be, under the silly as well, but I did enjoy, the beginning where he's pretending to sneeze.
Yeah.
It was kind of funny, but at the same time, it's kind of poignant because it sort of shows that he just legitimately does not understand certain facets of humanity.
Yeah. So it was nice to see Data do more than, because he's kind of been constrained to a few random scenes here and there. He's not usually a focal point yet, but he will be.
Yeah, he's usually the guy who just over explains things or takes things a little goes above and beyond what is really needed. I forget what episode it was. I think it was the one with the energy cloud being thing that gets trapped on the Enterprise. But there's the episode where they reference Sherlock Holmes, and he goes and reads up on Sherlock Holmes, and then pretends to be Sherlock Holmes for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's his main function for most of the series so far is just kind of that.
Yeah, just being a derp.
Yep.
So, and the only other good I would have, and then you can take the floor, whatever. This episode was a lot better paced for a while. It was, it's slow because it's TNG, but normally that's not a bad thing. In this episode, it wasn't a bad thing for a long time.
Yep.
And then
that's
and
the
so
one.
It became anticlimactic and weird later on, but for the first half of the episode, I was pretty into it.
Yeah, that was my other good, was that it had a great sense of mystery, which I know is something I've put for a few episodes before, but especially in this first little batch of episodes when it's so roller coastery up and down, I feel like it's good to highlight an episode that actually shows that it knows how to pace something and it knows how to create a sense of, I wonder what this is and how it's going to factor in later on, instead of just being oh hey, now we're doing a ballad to the deaf or something for no explicable reason. it's just now a plot element. Here you go, guys.
Any other goods for you, Dylan?
Okay, you're getting a little hostile there. No, those were my only two goods. I didn't actually write too much down for this episode. I actually enjoyed the episode a lot as well, but I only wrote down two goods, so I guess now we'll go into the bad.
Yeah.
Do you want me to start, or do you want to start?
I'll start with the only one I really have, besides the pacing that I kind of addendumed on to my last one.
That's true.
This Lore is so obviously evil from the moment he starts talking that it's just like absurd to me that no one picks up on it, and it really took me out once Lore started doing more stuff and he wasn't just introduced. And I don't know if that's because I'm poisoned by the fact that I already know about Lore.
That might be part of it. Like, I tried to look at it like, like if I was just first seeing this episode. And I think it's clear that the writers want you to know that something is off about him, especially because he has the facial twitch going on, like, right away. It's like something that's like, that's weird, I wonder why that's a thing. Yeah. Like, it's like they're trying to indicate, something's off about this guy right from the start. I think you're meant to be, like, kind of suspicious about him, but it is sort of like he just suddenly, like, cartwheels straight into pure evil territory a little too fast.
He starts out, to give a really obscure Star Wars comparison, he starts out kind of like, in the original Empire Strikes Back, there's an emperor that's not flat out evil in that one that they replaced later on. But in the original one, it's just like this guy is just like, I'm an emperor. And then in the Return of the Jedi, it was just like suddenly became like insanely evil. And that's what it was like. He was just kind of there. And he was a little weird. There's something bad. But yeah, cartwheeling into it is a good expression.
Woo, I'm evil now, guys. Woohoo!
It's never really explained exactly why. It's just that I guess he's defective or something. Because he says all this motivation that just doesn't really make sense to me.
Yeah, that was my bad. It's like, him being evil doesn't really make any sense. Or at least, there's no clear motivation for why he is just pure evil and, Grar communicate with Crystal thing and have it eat everyone or whatever. It doesn't really have a very clear reason. Like,
he has a superiority complex, but it's not. Sorry.
But they don't really, like, they kind of try, I think. Like, he says a couple of things in the episode about, he gave me everything humans had as well. Something about ambition, I guess. But it doesn't really make any sense. Like, I don't understand.
So his ambition is to have people get eaten.
Yeah, like his end, like he doesn't have a clear end goal. So him talking about ambition and being human just doesn't really. It doesn't hit home. I guess it doesn't like hit to a point that I think they were trying to go for. Like, I think the whole point was they were trying to go for the fact that the Doctor made him so human that he got humanity's faults in him as well, and they sort of just overwrite everything else. But
so one of humanity's faults is wanting to get people eaten by a crystal.
Yeah, man. Like, have you ever heard of the ancient Chinese philosopher?
Well, I'm glad we agree on that because I wasn't sure if I was missing something or what. But it's just like, I didn't a bad
get it
guy.
I didn't get it either. Like, it was just like
they do go. Hey. They go more in depth in one of the other episodes that he's in, but that's not this one, so.
Yeah, he does show up later, and from what I remember, like, his later stuff is much more, like, I guess it makes a little more sense why he's evil.
Well, he's very envious of Data, even though he will never admit it. I always took the meaning from some of the other episodes is that he's very envious of Data for basically not being broken.
Mm-hmm.
And hates his creator and hates everything else. But again, we don't have that in this episode, so we just have to go off what they show. And what they show, I don't understand it. 1 second he's just like, ah!
And like, he's certainly a formidable, like, villain, too, because he's very intelligent. Like, he actually goes so far to, he somehow erases his facial twitch and transfers it to Data when he switches
with a magical twitch eraser tool.
Which, like, yeah, it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but, like, it shows that he's actually, like, a cutting villain in some sense.
Yeah.
But it's still, like, what makes the best villains, and I've heard it explained as this, the best villains usually think that what they're doing is the right thing, despite, the obviously horrible methods they use to achieve that end.
Mhm.
But Lore doesn't really have a reason for doing anything. He's just kind of
It's
like,
just, I'm mad.
I'm mad, I want to destroy things, and everyone should die.
Yeah.
And that's really all it is. Like, he's certainly, like, intimidating, just he doesn't really have a compelling reason for being that way.
Yeah. I don't know.
Anything else you have to say? Like, anything...
The dialogue gets really terrible later on. There's this point where, I guess Wesley picks up on it.
Yeah.
There's a point in this episode where Lore, in the disguise of Data, brings Wesley and was it Riker?
Riker, yeah.
They bring him and Riker into Data's room. Riker. They bring him into Data's room, and then Laura's like, "Oh, look, see, he even has the facial twitch." And then he goes over and messes with the switch for a while on Data, and it's like, "Oh, look, he's all
that's
broken."
another thing.
And it's like, really? This is fine for Riker? He's just gonna take that at face value, huh?
Yeah, that's one thing I guess we didn't actually mention is that Data reveals to Dr. Crusher that he has an on-off switch, actually, like
a gigantic on-off switch.
like on his lower back. It's weird, yeah.
It's so big.
It's so.
It's like the size of Lore's whole hand when he's flicking it later on. So, yeah.
Yeah.
You
can take that in whatever context you like.
But, yeah, this involving Wesley is always horrible for me.
And, like, I get that he's supposed to be, like, sort of the voice of reason in this episode, but it's just, it gets, like, it's drawn out a little too much where he's like, I have to say something, and then Picard's like, shut up, Wesley. And literally says, shut up, Wesley, I might add.
Well, just the fact that none of the rest of the crew are suspicious. Like, yeah. I don't know how you get to be at that point on the flagship and just, like, take everything. Oh, they said they're good. Believe them. It's all good. Like, it's just so
I was thinking even that, because Lore makes the mistake of referring to Commander Riker as just Riker, which to me right away would have been like, that's not normal, that's not a Data thing. So I thought at that point, like, they would be like, oh hey, something's weird here. But nope.
They just flash suspicious looks and then get over it.
And then it just never comes up again. Like, I thought that was going to be the point where they're going to be like, maybe Wesley's got a point, maybe something else is going on here. But they just kind of write it off as like, oh, well, nah.
This is just a theory, but I think what happened in the production of this episode is that they had a whole plot with Lore and Data and everything, and then they wrote it out, and then they realized it'd be maybe a half hour long. So then they just threw Wesley in there, and were like, make him do stuff for 20 minutes. And they just stretched it out, because it's like the 30-minute point is where all of a sudden I just totally lost interest.
Yeah, it does get sort of dragged out by that point. It's like,
they could have used a real B plot.
Yeah, they still either just don't do the B plots, or the B plots are so inconsequential that they basically serve no purpose.
Let's talk about shaving.
Oh, no. So let's not talk about shaving.
Honor.
Sideline the shaving talk forever and ever.
Honor.
Damn it,
I don't have anything else to say, though. It was an okay episode, but it really feels... It's like how Bilbo said in Lord of the Rings, feels like butter spread over too much bread. That's what this episode feels like.
Yeah.
Feels like it should have been an A plot taking up maybe a half hour, and there should have been a B plot taking up other time. But instead, they just pulled it apart and made it fit.
Mm-hmm.
And just put Wesley in there for the lulz, I guess.
Yep. Or, I don't know. Yeah, he was just he's still just kind of there. He doesn't really have much of a purpose yet, even though They hinted at it in the Traveler episode.
I'm Riker, and I'm Picard, and we take everything at face value because we're smart. Yeah.
I just like the fact that you called him Wrecker.
Riker.
Commander William T. Wrecker.
Well,
Sounds like a wrestler name.
he does wreck a lot of beds over the course of the show. Picks up like 50 women.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about that.
Which I think is funny. He gets more and more creepy, and like, didn't we refer to him once as like date rapey in one of the other episodes or something? He gets so freaking weird around women, and the more bearded and fat he gets, the worse it gets.
Yeah,
So,
he's certainly.
that would be fun.
It's a thing. Let's just put it
He's
like
just
that.
dumb. His character doesn't do anything at this point in the show besides just be wrong all the time.
He gets really good later on though. Like he's actually one of the more like interesting characters in the show later on. So he actually has to deal with a few like ethically challenging situations.
I think Data actually has gotten more study in this episode than anyone else has gotten at all so far.
Yeah.
Because it's been just very direct plots with they don't really try to put in anything about characterization so far. So
yeah, it's definitely Data is much more going on for him than anyone else does at this point in the show.
You got anything
But anyways,
else?
we should probably wrap up there. Otherwise, we are going to go on tangents like we are wont to do.
Oh.
So
You just need to learn about honor, Dylan.
Don't even. I'd rather pretend that episode didn't exist.
Yeah.
But anyways, what would you rate this episode, Tyler?
I'd rate it I don't know. I'd rate it a shoulder shrug. It's like
A shoulder shrug out of 10?
Yeah.
Alright.
It's like
I would rate it 7 dismembered android heads out of 10.
Wow. That was a good one. That's a good one, Dylan.
Thank you.
So our next episode, I'm really looking forward to talking about that one because that's going to be like 40 minutes. And it's going to be amazing. I mean, our discussion will be 40 minutes.
What is the next
It's where they
episode?
go to a matriarchal planet and then Riker gets his man horn on.
Well, I can already tell this next episode's going to be a bad one.
I don't remember how bad it is. It might be better than some of the ones we've watched. I haven't seen it in years.
Yeah, I only vaguely remember it, so that's either a good thing or a bad thing.
I'm not sure if we'll come across episodes that I actually haven't seen anymore. Like Code of Honor I had never seen, and it should have stayed that way.
Yep.
Yeah, this is an okay episode, so yeah, give it a solid shrug.
Yep.
And
7 android heads out of 10.
thanks for listening, everyone.
Goodbye.